Welcome back to the Many Toys of, the show in which we go over the action figure history of various Transformers characters. And today we're going to talk about one of the most minor and obscure characters I've ever touched on in this show. It's time for the Many Toys of Banzai-Tron. In spite of being such a minor character, Banzai-Tron has had a great deal of requests over these several months. So before we begin, a big thank you to Shockwave Fan 1367, Quill 538, Toxitron 7385, Bulgarian Mel, Mark 048B, Neo Pro Gamer PL 312, Wisp the Phantom, and an especially big thank you to Bonkle Adventures and Harold H 2494. Bonkle and Harold have been going to bat for Banzai-Tron day in, day out for several weeks now. I hate to bury the lead right off the bat, but admittedly, Banzai-Tron doesn't have much to talk about as a character. He was an action master, and being a part of the last proper year of Transformers, he doesn't have much in the way of media appearances. And when he does show up, he reeks of being the Wish.com bludgeon. His big gimmick is that when he kills you, he's going to sell your body parts on the black market. That's interesting at the very least, but it's never actually been shown in any proper story. Even his pet, Razor Sharp, the fact that Bludgeon also has a underling that is a crab, that being Octopunch, just makes it feel even more like these two are supposed to be the same character, but no, it's just Hasbro cannibalizing its own ideas because the time was running out. But hey, just because the character isn't much doesn't mean that Banzai-Tron can't have some cool stuff going for him. In 1990, his Action Master came out, and I'll say it, he's a decent Action Master. I actually really enjoy his color scheme. It's very Halloween-esh. I really love the black, the green, the orange. I just think it's a good, sickly palette for any type of Decepticon. And the sculpting is nice. I enjoy the fact that he looks so much like a samurai. Razor Sharp is kinda dull, in all honesty. There are definitely better Action Master partners out there, but it does help fill out the price point. And overall, if you're into Action Masters, Banzai-Tron is more than par for the course. Alright, cool Action Master! It took 20 years for Banzai-Tron to get a second toy, but in 2009 he did get a Botcon figure. Now, this Bonsitron was a repaint of Energon Mirage, which is to say the second body that Tidal Wave had, and just like the original Mirage, Bonsitron looks nice. In vehicle mode, he's a speedboat, which is incredibly rare for Transformers, and in robot mode, good god, he's beautiful. He looks almost angelic with his kibble, except that kibble makes it hard for him to pose, or stand up, or do much of anything. Unfortunately, Mirage, Banzai-Tron, whatever you want to call this mold, it's definitely a looker, but only a looker. It has a hard time with the whole action figure thing. At the same time, I would argue that Banzai-Tron's colors actually do look a lot better on this mold than Mirage ever did, and something about that face in particular is still so striking to me. If you're gonna go for this mold, Banzai-Tron is probably the version to get. It's just, be aware, you're basically buying a statue at this point. Then again, better a statue than a time bomb. In 2010, Banzai-Tron would actually be on store shelves again, this time as a repaint of Revenge of the Fallen Bludgeon. And the toy looks good. Admittedly, not as good as Bludgeon, but still solid. It does give this mold an entirely new energy, and again, going with the mostly black and using the orange and the green as highlights, it does help give this guy an entirely new identity. This feels like the more subtle but potentially more dangerous brother of Bludgeon. Bludgeon was loud and in your face. Banzai-Tron feels a little bit more tactful, strategic. But then we get to the issues with the toy. Admittedly, the transformation's kind of finicky, but the tank mode looks nice, and the robot mode looks nice. But look at those tank treads. Those are rubber tank treads. Every version of this mold, be it Bludgeon, Banzai-Tron, Overlord, G2 Megatron, it is going to self-destruct over time. Those treads will crumble. It will affect the joints, especially in the shoulders. The elbows are known to snap. The knees are known to snap. This is a great toy, but it is not a toy that is going to last the test of time. It's unfortunate because, in some ways, this is the most important toy Banzai-Tron has ever had. Finally able to return to mass retail after all these years in the franchise, and it's as a toy that just cannot survive. In 2012, Banzai-Tron would wind up in Alternity. Alternity was the Japanese successor to Alternators. It was another high-end, beautifully engineered class of toy, and I would say that one of my favorite figures in the entire Transformers franchise came from Alternity, that being my dazzling Thundercracker. Banzai-Tron is actually, I would argue, the second best use of this mold, right after Thundercracker, because Banzai-Tron came later. He was able to make use of all of the improvements of all the structural redesigns that Thundercracker got. Whereas Starscream is a floppy mess and Skywarp has a hard time sticking together, Thundercracker and Banzai-Tron are perhaps the most solid versions of any of these toys. And I do like the colors. Again, it's not the absolute masterclass that Thundercracker's deco is, but it is nice to see the Banzai-Tron colors once again given its full potential, using the black with purple and orange and green as accents to give you a striking, somewhat cartoony look. Banzai-Tron isn't my favorite toy ever. It probably is the best toy Banzai-Tron ever has had, though. And the only issue with it is that it's never going to burn as bright or feel as rewarding as Thundercracker. So Banzai-Tron has been able to make use of random repaints, but come 2022, the boy would be back. Super 7 debuted their Ultimates line with Banzai-Tron in the first wave alongside his fellow Action Master Bombshell and an Optimus that was seemingly based off Action Master Prime. It seemed like Super 7 was going to go the route of Action Masters, give us new versions of all those great characters, and since the Super 7 Ultimates didn't transform, it would have been a perfect use for them. Except these were the only Action Masters we ever got. And even worse, Banzai-Tron wasn't all that good. His articulation is incredibly hampered, his plastic incredibly hollow, and he was going for over $60. He was going for leader class money despite feeling more hollow than most deluxes, and his accessories being incredibly disappointing. Hell, Razor Sharp can't even form the gun anymore. There's a gun barrel molded underneath to make the crab look worse, but you can't actually use it as an accessory. I hate to say it, but I feel like Banzai-Tron embodies all the issues with the Super 7 Ultimates. A decent idea, looks great on paper, but in practice, it just doesn't hold up to snuff. It's not well articulated, it's not well painted, it's not using the best quality plastic, and yet it is demanding premium money. Especially looking at Super 7's other offerings like the Ninja Turtles and the Silverhawks, there's just not much to talk about with poor little old Banzai-Tron. But thankfully, we don't have to end this on a sour note, because in our current day of 2025, we get to look forward to the Flame Toys Banzai-Tron, a remold of Bludgeon, but look at this. Keep in mind, this kit is still way out. It might be years before we get it, assuming it ever comes out, but it's nice to think that Banzai-Tron is about to get a proper reinvention, still using the original design, but modernized, updated, made to look more menacing. It feels like this will be the best toy Banzai-Tron will ever get, and now it's just a matter of waiting it out to see it release. I'm so glad I waited on making this video, if for no other reason than to be excited for Banzai-Tron. I'm happy that he has such a big release just over the horizon. And that's it. Banzai-Tron is a part of that tragic lost generation of G1 characters. The Pretenders, the Action Masters, they just don't tend to return. When they do show up, they are honestly glorified cameos most of the time. Truth be told, if your name's not Bludgeon, or in some cases Metalhawk, there's just never been much of a niche to fill out for Pretenders or Action Masters. Banzai-Tron probably has it the worst out of any of them. a handful, and I am emphasizing this as much as I can, a handful of Action Master characters have gone on to get some form of notoriety. Croc was made an absolute superstar in IDW, allowing him a whole new life as the leader of the Scavengers. But Banzai-Tron? He doesn't get stuff like that. He's just too close to Bludgeon. Everything you could do with Banzai-Tron, someone has already done with Bludgeon. And it's probably worked out better because people like Bludgeon more. Bludgeon is a better design, and overall a better character because he's been given the ability to be fleshed out. He is one of the marquee characters of Simon Furman, right up there with characters like Grimlock. He's always on standby to be a Shockwave level antagonist, someone who you can call in after Megatron, to the point that I know a few people who are convinced that Bludgeon is going to show up in Skybound at some point. I don't personally believe that, but it's possible. That's the type of character, the type of threat Bludgeon has always been allowed to be. Banzai-Tron just doesn't have a niche. All he has going for him is the fact that he's a martial artist. But in Transformers, that's just not enough. Especially nowadays when Lockdown and Prowl are also more recognizable as Transformers martial artists. Hell, Jazz is more recognizable as a Transformers martial artist. So what do you have for Banzai-Tron? The Great Deco? I hate to say it, but if I were to describe Banzai-Tron's deco to almost anyone, they'd probably assume I'm talking about Prime Dead End. He's been supplanted, forgotten. He's a fun reference to bring up for people who are in the know, but I don't know how much longer a character like Banzai-Tron will even be able to get toys. With no media appearances, no true nostalgia to tap into, and not even a good, obvious repaint of a major character, it's all he can do to scrounge up what few toys he has been able to grab. But guys, I still ask you, which was your favorite Banzai-Tron, and is there a Banzai-Tron you're trying to track down right now? Thankfully, the Grimlock video is already done. You should have already been able to see that. Same thing with every other video I did this month. Next month, I'm hoping to make an update to my Skybound shelf video, and I'm looking forward to the many toys of potentially Shattered Glass, but we have to wait to see how next month plays out. What I will say is that if you would like to support the show, I'm on Patreon. For $1, you'll get access to Moonbase 1, my Discord server. For $5, you'll be able to watch videos early and download videos directly from me. And for $10, you will be made a producer. You'll show up in every video I make from now on and be able to make direct Patreon requests to me. Thank you all so much for watching, and hey, we'll see what we get up to next time.